Have you ever felt on a first date like it's too good to be true? Like it's going so well, everything is lining up perfectly, conversation's flowing, you're feeling maybe even butterflies in your stomach, but then something tells you this is too good to actually be happening? I want to talk about that in this video. In fact, we're going to go over 5 signs that you may be dealing with a dismissive avoidant on the first date or even on the first few dates. And I'm going to give you a bonus sign because I think it's that important. For those of you who are new to the channel, hi, I'm Sarah. I am a mindset mastery coach, transformational hypnotherapist, and attachment style specialist. And let's dive into this topic because it's juicy. So, when you're on a date with somebody and you start feeling like maybe the center of their universe or the center of their world, or maybe you feel like you're being placed on a pedestal pretty quickly, you have to stop and ask yourself, why is this person doing that? They don't even know me. There's no real intimacy or bond or connection yet. It's too fast and too furious. So, the first sign that you may be, and I'm saying maybe because, I don't know for sure. I wasn't on that date with you, but that you may be dealing with a dismissive avoidant is too good to be true. And you're just feeling this in your gut. Like things are just too perfect. And maybe that's because this person isn't really being fully forthcoming or honest. Maybe that's because what I've found, at least in my history and with my clients, is that when you feel this way, there's another part of you, there's a part of you that wants to accept this, and there's another part of you that wants to challenge this. And for good reason. But because we've grown up with Disney and fairy tales, and we've grown up maybe even with grandparents who were together for 70 years or something, we're sort of taught that love conquers all. And if you have love, then you have everything. So in the back of most of our minds, men and women both, we tend to have this idea of this fantasy or fairy tale. And if you're lucky, you may even get a version of that by meeting your best friend and your soulmate, and the person, your partner, the person that's meant to really be with you. But when you're on a first date with somebody, this is really just a chance to get to know somebody. This shouldn't be a chance to delve into all your traumas, your childhood, your inner child issues, your attachment style, or anything like that. It really should be light and free. And yet, what I find is that with a dismissive avoidant, there's often this sort of false sense of intimacy that can develop that can then make you feel really important. But that's another point that we'll get to in just a minute. So too good to be true feeling is number one. Number two is they'll be all about you and seem all in. But hint, they don't even know you yet. So again, it's putting you on a pedestal. It's making the conversation all about you. Why would they make the conversation all about you? Because if they keep everything pointing at you, if they keep the conversation about you, if they keep asking you a ton of questions, which if it's a male DA and a female who's on the date with a male DA, she's going to feel really special, right? She's going to feel like, wow, he's really interested in me. He must be really into me, right? So she's going to see that as a green light. She's probably not going to look deeper and think this could actually be even a red flag. So they'll be all about you, asking you lots of detailed questions about you. And they're actually genuinely interested, I feel. But they're doing this on a subconscious level to avoid conversation about themselves, to avoid having to go deep or personal about themselves. And this leads me to the next one. When you ask them about their previous relationships, they're likely going to either sort of like deflect the conversation. They're going to blame the ex completely, but they're going to do it in a way where it paints them as the victim, or it could be that they will just say, I don't know. I don't know what my role was, but I know what they did. So either way, it's sort of like this very like diminished victim mentality. And you'll notice that for a lot of DAs, they tend to have a lot of marriages under their belt, a lot of divorces. Pardon me, I've got something in my eye. A lot of divorces under their belt, or just a lot of relationships that are short-lived that don't really work out. And so if you ask this question, and that's kind of getting a little deep on a first date, but sometimes if you're past the age of, 35 and you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, etc., you just don't have time for games and you don't have time to wait around for this. If you're in your 20s or early 30s, you may not ask this question as much. So if this question is being asked, right, and let's say you're able to answer it with certainty and clarity, and you're able to assume self-responsibility for your role in what happened, regardless of if your ex was an asshole, regardless of if your ex did this or did that or acted this way, you're still able to say, well, I stayed past the expiration date and I take accountability for, obviously I had lessons to learn and I should have left or I could have left or I saw the red flags on the first date. And so it's assuming self-responsibility. It's taking accountability for your life, because truly when we're in blame mode, we don't grow. You can't grow when you're in blame mode. People get stuck in that for years and decades. They want to be the victim. They want to blame. They don't want to take accountability for their own life. Anyway, I'm on a tangent there, and that's a topic for another video. But if they're unable to tell you it's almost like negligence, like they're pleading negligence. They're pleading the fifth, like, I don't know what happened in that relationship. I just know that they cheated and they did this and they did that. Well, you might be curious to find out that if they're telling you that one of their exes cheated, or one of their exes, was unfaithful, or one of their exes was a liar, or they might call them a narcissist or a sociopath, etc., you might be really interested to find out that they probably cheated too. And again, it's almost like, yeah, but I cheated because they cheated, sort of a thing. So again, it's the lack of self-reflection. It's the lack of ability to dissect that relationship in a way that they actually can learn and evolve from it so that they can be a better partner moving forward. Let's move on to number 3. They're eager to go at a rapid pace. So even if you're like, hey, let's put the brakes on, let's slow the roll here, the DA may entice you. They can be very alluring on a first date. They can be because again, it's all about you. And if you're either an anxious attacher, or let's say have codependent tendencies, or if you've just been alone for a long time and you're just lonely and so excited to be on a date with someone who's so interested and fascinated by you, let's face it, our egos get, inflated a little bit. We like to feel desired, especially as women, but men do too. We like to feel like somebody's interested. So if that's the case, you're on this date and you're feeling like, wow, this person, like, they're really into me. You might not even be that into them. And this is where you need to question this. Am I really into this person, or am I just into the attention that I'm getting from this person? And I'm saying this in all honesty because when I met my husband, we met at a concert. And we went on a breakfast date the next day. I really wasn't into him. He was into me from the get-go. I really wasn't into him. He wasn't really my type physically. And even mentally, I don't know, he just wasn't my type. Not to say he's not attractive. He's an attractive man. It just, there was something there that I was not missing. I was choosing to just, oops, I'm not going to look at that. So we go on this date the next day, and then we spent like a whole week together. What was interesting about that is I found myself being more interested in the attention I was getting because I was going through such a hard time in my life. I was so extremely vulnerable on so many levels, financially, emotionally, socially. I was in an isolated place in my life, financially devastated place. And I felt like I had no GPS. I didn't know where I was going or what I was supposed to do. And here appears this Prince Charming who's all about me, who thinks I'm the cat's meow. And it felt really good, but it also felt safe. So you have to be really careful when you're dating. Date with intention. If you're dating just to date, and I have a friend, that's doing that, like dating because she just doesn't want to be alone, you're likely going to attract the wrong kind of person because your vulnerability will be like sniffed out. And it's not that people are trying to sniff out the vulnerability most of the time. It's just that we're human and it's human nature. So let's move on to number 4. When you try to direct the conversation to them, it's not going to go very deep. But even in general, if you look back at the conversation, it probably wasn't very deep. Like if I look back at the conversation, there were questions asked about my life, like siblings and how did you grow up and that sort of thing. What are your interests? But it wasn't really emotionally deep. There was no real emotional connection. And I think I knew that. I think I was, again, really excited about the possibility that someone was this interested in me after such a long gap. of having nobody, right, be interested in me. But that's because I wasn't really interested in myself enough to do the things, to do the work. I attracted my shadow mate. I attracted my wound match, my wound partner. And that's what you're going to do if you're in that kind of energy. So they'll sort of stay superficial and scrape the surface when you try to ask them questions about themselves. And when they're scraping the surface, they do it in a way, God, DAs are so eloquent sometimes, and they're so charming that they can do it in a way where you feel like they're actually getting deep or they're answering the question. But when you look back on this, after the fact or after the breakup, you're going to go, oh my gosh, they really were just keeping it as minimalistic as possible. But because you were at this point, you were now so into them. You're into them because they're into you. And let me know below in the comments, by the way, guys, if you've experienced this where you really weren't into the person, but then suddenly you were because they were into you. Just be honest. Let's get vulnerable. Let me know in the comments below. I know I'm not the only one. And then, when you're scraping the surface, but you're not really getting too deep, again, there's no real emotional intimacy. So let's do the bonus. Here's number 6. Here's your bonus hint, how to spot a DA on the first date. You're going to walk away feeling admired, charmed, probably charmed your pants off maybe, important and special, and maybe even really just desired. But no real intimacy was created on that date. It was just a lot of conversation, a lot of questions about you, and a lot of them, they probably made very good eye contact. They were postured towards you. So body language was telling you they're into me, they're interested, they desire me, they want to see me again. They probably made the second date before the end of the first date. They may have even said, look, I feel very strongly about you and I really want to explore this. Look, 2 weeks in, my ex-dismissive avoidant husband proposed to me. We got married, we eloped 2 months after we met. Now, fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant, not really that surprising that we got married 2 months in and eloped, right? And that's really, honestly, that was sort of my style. I sort of defy the conventions, right? So that's sort of my personality. And I think he picked up on that, was like, this is great, let's do this. When we went to therapy, I got him in therapy twice, and we went to 2 sessions each time before he called it quits. Typical DA style. They do not excel in therapy, couples therapy. But this is when she asked, well, why did you guys rush it? And I was like, I don't know. I was desperate. I was lonely. I was vulnerable. His answer was this: I couldn't believe she was single, and I didn't want her to get away. I wanted to scoop her up as quickly as possible. So it wasn't even about me. It was about, he was afraid that someone else would get me. It wasn't even really about me. It was about like getting the prize, And when I heard that, I was kind of disgusted. And I'm like, oh my God, it was 2 people who really just wanted to be wanted, who were tired of being lonely, who just wanted the search to be over. So again, let me know in the comments below if you can relate to just wanting the search to be over, right? Like Charlotte said on Sex and the City, the original series, not this new woke one, the original series. She was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Where is he? Like, you're just exhausted from the search. And you're like, okay, you know what? This will work. This will do. I'm going to make it work. And that's what I told myself. But I knew even on my wedding day that we weren't a match. I knew that. I just thought maybe I could make it work for a couple years. Maybe we could make it better. Maybe in my mind. So it's amazing what your mind will do to trick you to stay in situations that aren't actually serving you. Now, it did serve my evolution, but it served me most to exit that relationship, right? Don't ignore the red flags, guys. They're there for a reason. And oftentimes they fill up a football field. Don't ignore the yellow flags. Don't ignore the warning signs coming from your gut. That's your intuition speaking. Don't ignore the things that feel unsettling, uncomfortable. And also, I'll leave you with this. Buddhists say, if you feel butterflies when you meet somebody, run in the other direction. If that's likely your wound mate, that's your shadow match, you're gonna shadow box with that person. It's gonna be one inner child and another inner child in mommy and daddy issues. Now, if you feel safe and calm and secure in someone's presence, explore that. And I know what you're gonna say. I'm already 2 steps ahead of you. Well, Sarah, the DA made me feel that way. I get it. So did mine. Be more tuned into yourself. Again, yes, I felt that way. And I also saw the red flags. And I also knew that I was super vulnerable. And. So really tune into yourself. Stay attuned to you. Stay centered. When someone throws you off center, think about it in your past. You may have had great sex with that person. Pardon me. May have been an incredible time, but likely that person was not long-term potential. When you really truly feel aligned with somebody, they're your best friend, they're your confidant, there's peace, there's ease, there's grace and forgiveness, and there can be passion and great sex and all of those things. I think a lot of times those of us with chaotic childhoods or emotional neglect often feel like, well, I can't have one, I can't have both. I can't have passion and, best friend. Well, you can have all of that. But first you have to learn to be your own best friend. You have to learn to sit with yourself. And I'll tell you something, guys, I've been sitting with myself more than ever. Not in a way, it doesn't feel lonely. It doesn't feel lonely like it used to. It actually feels expansive. It feels like I can breathe. That's why I've been creating less videos and less content and taking some time off, because I really feel like this is where the wisdom, this is where the fruits of your labor lie, is in being able to sit with yourself, hear yourself, see yourself clearly, become best friends with yourself, go on a vacation by yourself. You know how many I've done? If I hadn't done those vacations, I wouldn't have lived. I wouldn't have experienced so many amazing places or workshops or events. Don't be afraid to live life with yourself and to really, truly get to like yourself. You got to like yourself before you can love yourself, I think. So stay attuned to yourself. And if you're out there in the dating world, Godspeed, and stay aligned and just stay true to yourself. I can't express that enough. Do not sacrifice yourself for someone else or for a good time or because something feels good. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you in the next video.